If you're in Seattle, and you need to buy or sell a home, we'll be right there for you. Because we're the realtors that you can trust. So go to ronanddonsitdown.com.
You're listening to The Ron and Don Show on the Ron and Don Radio Network.
Hey, you guys, what's going on? Welcome to another edition of the Ron and Don Show, and we are back live in the Ron and Don studio.
What is up, Ron and Don Nation?
Hey, coming up on the Ron and Don Show, we got to talk Super Bowl. We also talk about the fact that the voice of the Mariners, Rick Rizzs, is it getting pushed out? What's going on here? And also, we have to talk a little bit about Matthew Gardner, who's going to be stopping by on the Friday show, talk a little real estate. What are you and Matthew going to talk about?
Well, we got an actual economist to come to the Ron and Don studios in downtown Ballard.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about the locked-in effect. Why are so many people in Seattle saying, you're never going to get me to move because my mortgage rate is so good? So we unpack that. And also, should you freak out when you hear about a layoff at one of the big tech firms?
All right. So that's coming up on Friday's show. Before we get to that, though, let's get to all this. Minneapolis, Minnesota, a place, did you used to watch Fran Tarkington? Back in the day,
yeah, absolutely,
with the Purple People Eaters and also Chuck Foreman, number 44, for your Minnesota Vikings.
And we know how much you love a hot dish.
Always taking on the monsters of the Midway, my Chicago Bears. So whenever I think of Minnesota, I think of the Vikings.
I think of that, and I think of Prince.
I think of Prince, yeah. And I also think about how kind and nice people are there.
Absolutely.
People in Minnesota are so kind and nice. What a lot of people don't know is when New England was kind of being settled, the same folks that were settling in New England were also settling in parts of Minnesota. So I always get along with people from New England for some reason. We'll find out if we get along with them with the Super Bowl's coming up here. I imagine, but I've always appreciated the candor, and I always appreciated their support, and I always appreciate their love of sport, their love of each other, their love of community. And as we've seen in Minnesota, people there, even in sub-zero temperatures, are not afraid to go out, grab a whistle, and get after it. So what is your take right now with 16 people being shot by DHS? We know a couple of those now being fatal right there in Minnesota.
You're talking about ICE or?
Yeah, and which is under the DHS
Homeland Security, yeah.
And then we watched a young gentleman, a 37-year-old man, on our television sets get executed in the back of the head. You know what you saw. I know what I saw. We all know what we saw. And then to have an administration come out and lie to us about what we actually saw. And now, finally, here comes the pushback, not just from the left, but now we're seeing some pushback from the right. We'll find out if that continues, and it seems like the president is recoiling a little bit right now. What is your take on Minnesota and what's next?
You know what I did on this, Don, is I asked myself, all the stuff that you just said is true, and you can see everything in real time. And I got to think, what is the ideology that's driving this? There's something underneath the surface here that I don't really have a big handle on. And so I started to do a deeper dive on that. And I came to what I think is what is actually going on here. So if we zoom out and go, why is this happening at this scale right now? Why is there 4 times the budget for ICE? Why are we building detention centers like Alcatraz Alley or Alligator Alley? Why is all this stuff happening in the interior of the United States? And all roads led back to Stephen Miller. So Stephen Miller, who works in the White House, is a proponent of this thing called the critical replacement theory. All right. And so this was popularized by Tucker Carlson, and it goes back a couple decades. Basically, the theory says white European people are the most powerful people, and we're the ones that founded America, and it's our destiny to be in control and in power of America. And basically they're now expanding that to the Western Hemisphere as we try to take over Greenland and we try to, be the president of Venezuela at the same time. And so anything else that impinges on that is a threat. So the theory goes that, and it doesn't take a long leap to realize that this comes out of kind of some racist ideologies, and that's where even Donald Trump even said in previous things of like, let's cut off all the shithole countries, and then we'll grant visas to the non-shithole countries. And so all of that stuff is wrapped up into this replacement theory. So the fear is, and I think they really believe this, we do not want non-white, non-American people replacing the seats of power, the best jobs, people in authority, elected officials, on and on and on. There's a fear that those people, jobs, power, money is going to be replaced from these folks that don't fit the model. And so we're pushing back and we're saying, well, how do we stop that? If you're a MAGA person and you're in Trump, the way you stop that is you remove those people. All right, so we're going to go in and we're going to say we're going to remove 1 million immigrants a year. That's our goal. 1 million immigrants a year. We're going to ship them out of this country because they're not going to replace us. And when you do a deep dive and sort of a meta-analysis of this, almost every single premise of this theory that Tucker Carlson did 400 shows on.
I'm just going to jump in though. 1 million a year is not the number. They're hoping for 500,000 a month. Anyway, go ahead.
Right. So they're right now 2025 they got up to like 600,000. Mm-hmm. But the what you find
1 million a month if they could get to 1 million a month
is that every single metric that you can measure, this is a complete disaster. So when you look financially, when you look emotionally, when you look at civil rights, when you look judicially, when you look at any way you want to slice this issue, it is a massive failure to try to enforce this replacement theory agenda. But they have doubled down, tripled down, quadrupled down on this replacement theory. Let's just take the interesting thing, and we're going to talk about this in our Friday show, labor costs in the Pacific Northwest when it comes to housing. We have a housing shortage. People are saying, where are my kids going to live? We want to build more houses. You know this, and I know this, and just intuitively you know this. Are there illegal people working in the trades? Absolutely. Are those people replacing American jobs that would do the same job at the same rate? No. And so that's not true. You can go to any study that you look at. You cannot find an American worker that's going to be a roofer at the same cost that you'll have someone from a foreign country come in here and do that labor. So they're not replacing those jobs. They're working in coordination with those jobs. So many times you'll have a white American person that owns the crew, does all the bookings, does all the billing, and then the actual person that comes out and works on your house is not speaking English. And so the reason why that model works is because that business owner cannot find Americans that look exactly like me and you and the business owner to come out and get up on that roof and fix the roof, or to come out and work on a drywall painting crew on Sunday night at 10 p.m. They cannot find those guys.
Yeah, and you can say we'll pay them more, and that doesn't help. Or you can say we're going to hire high school kids. I've tried to hire high school kids in our business, and it's very, very difficult to do.
And so I'm sorry, so let me take it back to Minnesota, because that's what the question you asked.
Let's go back to Minnesota.
And so what we're seeing now is that in order to meet these goals, in order to say we're going to remove everybody that we need to remove, you've gotten more and more granular to where you had the 5-year-old that was detained as a trap to get the parents to show up, and we're going to deport everybody. Where you have now a crisis happening in Florida where Cubans that fled a communist regime and where Russia was partnering with Havana, those Cubans looked to America, and America embraced them and said, come to America because we want you to flee the communists and be on our side. Those Cubans now are being deported back to Cuba. And so they're going, whoa, wait a minute. We embraced you because we were anti-communism, and now you're shipping us back home. So we're seeing these sort of things happen to try to meet this quota of basically an artificial purity around what America means. And so it's a wholesale rejection of the idea that we are a melting pot. And it's driven by the ideology of Stephen Miller is the helm of this. And he has infected the rest of the cabinet, if you will, with these ideas that somehow we are being replaced, which I don't think we are being replaced.
220,000 men have signed up to be ICE agents. Who do you think these men are? And people need to understand this. These men that have signed up have not hit the streets yet. So the bumbling idiots that you see right now in Minnesota they don't look like they know what they're doing because they don't know what they're doing. Those are agents that supposedly have been around 8, 9, 10 years. Those we have over 12,000, mostly men right now, being trained. And their training is supposed to last 6 months. They have it down right now to 47 days. So in 47 days after their training, they're supposed to go out with a senior ICE agent. And it used to be they would ride with them for a year. Now they ride with them for a number of weeks, and then they're out on the streets. The interesting thing, too, out of these 220,000 men that have signed up for these jobs, most of them on day one when they go are rejected because they're not physically fit enough to actually be an ICE agent. I'm looking at some of these guys that have, like, their costumes they're wearing don't even fit, right? Their military costumes that they have on don't even fit. And for some reason, I always think to myself, these guys can't look any more military than they look right now. And then the next day they come out with like a new helmet. They got a new thing strapped to their arm. They got a new gun. It looks like they are going to war with Minneapolis. It looks like they are going to war with you and I. It looks like they're going to war with American citizens. And guess what? They are going to war with American citizens in military cosplay outfits, but with real guns, real bullets that have real consequences that shoot and kill real people.
It just reminds me that we don't pay attention to anything we've learned. Go back to the Stanford prison experiment. It's a landmark psychological experiment where they took college students, made half of them prisoners, half of them guards. And what happens when you empower someone to say, you're the guard and Don, you're the prisoner? I start treating you like a prisoner. And so I start believing that I have authority over you, even though I know that it's an experiment. We're doing this experiment now. We're doing the Stanford prison experiment all across America and paying people a $50,000 bonus to say, you are at war with these people. Go. And so if you're training them and telling them they're an authority, telling them they're at war with their own citizens, telling them that these people, if you look brown, if you speak with an accent, that's the enemy. Guess what? They're treating them like the enemy because that's this experiment that we're setting up. And I hope that we continue to see this pushback. I don't want to encourage people to go out into harm's way. I don't want to encourage people to risk their lives.
The pushback is coming from people that carry guns. That's what the surprising thing is here. There are people standing up and saying, hey, he had the right to carry that gun. It's
concealed permit.
And then when the administration came out and people in administration said you shouldn't take a loaded gun to a demonstration. And now everybody's talking about Kyle Rittenhouse, and boy, some of his quotes that are coming out are very interesting to look at. He doesn't seem real sorry for the people that he killed at administration or a demonstration. When he shot 3 people, he killed 2. And how old was he at the time? 17 years old in Illinois, and he was open carrying.
How many people were open carrying on January 6th?
Yeah. Clothes carrying, all kinds of carrying was going on. But the interesting thing, though, is you see people now that are not on the left who are in the middle or maybe even on the right saying, hey, he should have the right to take that gun and carry that to a demonstration. And it's very clear that he never pulled out that gun, and then to be shot in the back of the head and to be executed in the back of the head. And right now, for all the folks from Minnesota there, most of them moms that are out there with cameras, running their cameras, right? They're being interviewed now about what was it like to look through your iPhone and you're filming someone being murdered on the streets of Minnesota in real time. And I have to say, even for like my son, and I don't want to speak for him, but I do have to say that he's a 15-year-old kid, and he and his friends have real expectations about adults in this country standing up, and they have real expectations toward one another about standing up, not allowing this, and voicing your opinion. And I'm seeing this happen even within school. Silence is complacency. They have decided as a student body. And they are not having it. So
And I think if you're even right of center, it's dawning on people slowly going, my grocery prices are up because no one's out there to pick the produce. My housing prices are up because of all the stuff we just talked about. All the tariffs are kicking into products that I need to buy. That is up. My life is worse, demonstrably worse. Because when I used to go and get my lawn mowed or go to the restaurant, the person cooking my food, those people aren't here anymore. In factories in the middle of America, a lot of the labor, they're not here anymore. My life is worse because of this cruelty, and they promised me it would be better and cheaper, and it's not. You don't have to be a rocket surgeon to just go, this isn't cheaper and better.
Yeah.
It's not.
And you still have to deport people, and you still have to deport bad guys, and we get that, and we understand that. But you bring up the word cruelty, and to see people be so cruel to one another and to be so cruel to other humans.
And enjoy the cruelty.
Yeah, and to enjoy that. So, where do you see it going from here? You think the president backs off, or do you think this will cool down in a week and we're off into another city?
I think that Stephen Miller's a true believer, and as long as he has a position in the White House, he is going to push to sanctify America to his vision of what it
Isn't
wants
Chrissy
to be.
Noem running out of cowboy hats? And
Yeah,
helmets?
they'll put another sycophant in there right after her.
Yeah. All right. Don't go anywhere. We'll lighten things up on the other side of this.
If you have a friend that is ready to start their real estate journey, send them to ronanddunsitdown.com.
All right, you guys, as promised, let's lighten things up a little bit.
Yes.
Where were you for the NFC Championship game, Ron? And what was your posture? And what were you guys eating?
So I hosted. I knew you were at the game, so you weren't invited because you were at the game. I was a little bit jealous of that. I saw some of your posts on the socials. It looked fantastic. It was a beautiful day.
Fun,
so
man.
I hosted. I had my friend Michael over. I had my girlfriend / life partner over. Really nice spread of food.
Is it a girlfriend / life partner?
I don't know. We're trying to figure out what the title is. I think significant other.
I thought last week we decided life partner.
Life partner.
Now you just added girlfriend / life partner.
I'll say
Backing out.
We'll say life partner.
I think whatever it is, it should be in Spanish.
Okay, I'll have to learn that in Spanish. I'll get a translation for you next
Thank
show.
you. Thank you.
So a really nice spread. Won't go into all the food. Here's the issue that I had is, and I'm not going to. Some people were having non-football conversations in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
So
At the house?
At the house.
Did you
watching
shush
the
him?
game. I behaved a little badly.
Oh, you did?
I said, I hit pause because I can do that on the DVR.
Yeah.
And I was like, time out. We need to have football only talk till the end of the game.
You know what? You had to have a huddle up right in the middle of your living room.
cannot be having-
You had to huddle the team up.
Non-football talk
Yeah.
when the game was not in hand.
That's some bullshit, isn't it?
There were some moments where I was legit nervous.
Can't be allowed.
Because the Rams are a very good football team. And I hate / respect Puka Nacua.
I hate him.
Oh my God, he's so good. He's so open all the time.
And he's such a great human.
He's
And
a great human.
And when he went around afterwards and he talked to the Seahawks,
But like-
and he went to Cooper Cup and he said, "Man, I hope you win it all." And those guys stood there. You would have thought they were life partners.
But like when we-
/ girlfriends for how long he was. They were hugging each other, just in this emotional connection. Because of course Cooper used to play
when
there.
he scored after the 15-yard penalty for unsportsmanlike conduct, and the next play, I'm like, how are we not guarding Puka?
Yeah.
So these are the conversations I want to be having.
And I like when he gets up and his helmet gets thrown off, and he still gets up in other guys' faces,
Yes.
and he's talking smacks to
I like
Seahawks
Puka.
with no helmet on.
And so I'm sitting here going, this is not the time. We need to have conversations about football and football only.
That's it, yeah.
That was my only downside. I was very, very nervous.
Did it hush the crowd over at your house, or did?
I think they moved a little bit to finish the discussion, but like I was locked in, very nerve wracking. That to me, the one thing that I'm a little nervous about, because I like to be a nervous Nelly on this, is I think they're so up for that Rams game that I hope there's not an emotional letdown of going, oh man, that the Rams are our most difficult opponent. I can just coast into the Super Bowl now.
You know what I think helps is I think the Pete Carroll, Marshawn Lynch, the way it ended with New England, that story arc, I think if you're Mike Macdonald, you can pick that story arc right back up because it's a great point, Ron. You need a story arc, especially to the last 2 weeks here. And with the Rams and the Niners, those are built in, not so much with New England unless you go back to why didn't they give the ball to Marshawn Lynch? Why didn't we win that second Super Bowl? Yeah, this is our fourth Super Bowl, but we've only won one here.
Jackson Smith and Jigba was 10 when that Super Bowl
He's so
happened.
smooth, man.
He was 10 years old. He's not going to have a grudge from when he was 10.
That dude is smooth.
He's great.
He is so smooth.
Holy cow. Metcalf who?
Yeah. And I have to say, I got a little teary-eyed. For Matthew Stafford. He's there. He keeps the helmet on. He makes sure that he finds Cooper Kupp.
His fingers are bleeding.
He makes sure that he finds Cooper Kupp. He stays out on the field and hugs and talks to everyone. And then he goes home. And he still has his jersey on and his helmet. And he walks into his daughter's bedroom. And it's 2:30 in the morning.
I haven't seen this.
He doesn't have the jersey on and the helmet.
Okay.
But dad's home from work, right? He had just gotten off the plane. And he went into the room, and mom is there, and she took a little video of him going in there and being a dad, not waking his kids up, but hugging them, tucking them in, cuddling with them, kissing them. And I'm like, Matthew Stafford, you're so good for the game of football. And to have a real rivalry. Like, we have a real love-hate rivalry with them and also with the San Francisco fans. I have to say, And going to Lumen Field, people felt like the 12s were back because they were back. Because they stopped selling off their tickets.
I was going to ask you, hold on. You've been a part of, professionally and personally, the biggest moments in Seahawk history.
Oh, yes.
Seriously, you've gone to a lot of these games where I haven't. Yeah. We worked for the radio franchise that had the Seahawks. Where do you put this in your personal experience? I was not at the Beastquake game, but like if I was, that would have been my number one because that Beastquake run, I think, is one of the greatest runs ever. But like in the tip interception with Sherman
that picture's on my wall.
So like that game is pretty amazing. Where does this stack up for you in your own
because it's
journey with the Seahawks?
It's the most recent, so it's probably the most interesting. I think this year is interesting because people didn't expect this, right? And I think this year is interesting because you look at someone like Mike Macdonald, who's a defensive mind, and we're even seeing now everybody was going to go out if you're going to fire a coach, and they fired 10 of them this year. We have to go out and get an offensive coordinator. No, you don't. Maybe you need to go out and get somebody like Mike Macdonald. Think about the Baltimore Ravens just let go of Coach Harbaugh. And Mike Macdonald was there 2 years ago. They would have loved to have him. He was there coaching Michigan against the University of Washington, right? And one of the biggest games that we've ever experienced, if you're a Washington Husky fan, that was him on the other sideline. And when Michigan couldn't win a national championship, it was one Harbaugh brother calling the other Harbaugh brother because Jim was going like, hey, do you have anyone for me on the Ravens staff that can teach these Michigan Wolverines to play like Ravens? And I got the guy for you, Mike Macdonald, and he sent him down. So you think about the tear that Mike Macdonald's been on. John Schneider is certainly getting his flowers. Think about the way that Geno crashed this year, and then the way that they've elevated Sam Darnold and they've stood behind him. And then some of the other players that they went out and got and that everybody was bought into. And even I have to say, I was amazed when Jody raised. Did you see on TV when Jody raised the flag?
Jody Allen?
Yeah, and ultimately she has to sell that team. It's in Paul's will. And everybody thought that she would have sold it by now. I don't know if the Seahawks get to the Super Bowl without Jody Allen. And it felt that way when they introduced her raising the 12th man flag. I didn't know how it would go. It was as loud as if Marshawn Lynch was up there because people not only appreciate her, they appreciate Paul Allen, and they remember when the Seahawks on the east side packed up those vans and they headed to California.
You're not a Ken Behring fan?
Ken Behring, yeah, and they weren't coming back. So everyone, you're just kind of reliving those moments, and then to come back and root for a guy like Mike Macdonald, who is he is such a nerd when it comes to football. He just had a baby. He talks about what it's like preparing for the Niners and the Rams at home when you're looking at a screen, but you're also taking care of your newborn and what that's like. So the whole story I really like and love. And the thing that I did love is that the 12s came back to Lumen Field. They were louder than hell. And when you talk to the Niner fans and the Rams fans, Especially there was a gentleman named Daryl who was sitting behind me, man, and he had on the Daryl 49er jacket. I put it up on my Facebook channel.
49er or the
This
Rams?
is 49ers.
Or 49ers.
And when they knew they were just getting their handed to them, I said, hey, do you want to know where a good steakhouse is? He goes, nope, I just want to sit here in it. He goes, I just came to experience the 12s. I'm just here to experience you guys. And he stayed there for the whole game because he just wanted to feel it, even though he was a Niner fan. And the Rams fans that came were the same way. Like, there was some smack talking going on, which there always should be, but there was also a lot of love. There was a lot of respect. And they were like, hey, to come here and to be in Seattle amongst the 12s. So this was something I've always had on my bucket list. None of them were interested in going to the Super Bowl. I'm not interested in going to the Super Bowl. And the reason I'm not interested in going to the Super Bowl, when you go to the Super Bowl, to be a 12, quote unquote 12, and have access, I mean, if you're sitting in the seats that I usually sit in at Lumen Field, that's a $47,000 ticket for one seat, right? And the sad thing to me is the Seahawks will say, and the NFL will say, yeah, we're going to have this drawing. I know people that have been in the drawing. We've been in it for 20 years. I know people that have been in the drawing for 50 years in order to go to the Super Bowl and get tickets. I don't know anyone who's ever. Do you know anyone that's ever won the drawing?
No.
They say that there's 3,500 tickets, but I don't think those 3,500 tickets go to 3,500 season ticket
corporate.
holders. I think the players, their friends, and then when you go to the game, it's just a disappointment. It's not going to be what the NFC Championship is. It's not going to be what we saw in Denver, New England, that snow coming down, those two games going on at the same time. Who's going to play who? I just always see the Super Bowl is kind of a it's almost the Pro Bowl to me.
It's better
almost,
as a TV show.
It's almost the Pro Bowl to me, and the real fans aren't there. I have to ask you though, how is Tom Brady? Because Tom Brady has grown on me a lot. How was he calling the game?
He's getting better and better. You can't say the one thing you can say about Tom Brady is he works hard at what he does.
He really does,
and
yeah.
he has improved. I think that it's no longer an interview show between Burkhardt and him.
Oh, good.
He's offering up some stuff that you don't get. He does like to call people twitchy. He's really into calling, ooh, JSN's really twitchy.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what that means.
He's amazing on the telestrator, though.
He's
and
very
I
good.
don't know if there's anyone better than Tom is on that telestrator. And you feel like when Madden was doing it, you felt like if you didn't know anything about football, he was making football available for everyone. When Brady's doing it, I think if you're a person that's not really into football, you get something from it. And then if you're really into the X's and O's, it gives that to you too. I think he does a great job. So
I'm excited.
I've really come around on Tom.
My last thing that for my question for you on this
Wish I had his hair.
is the previous Super Bowl winners, and maybe it was just a time in my life, it felt like I got to know them, or the personalities were bigger in a way of like Marshawn and the Legion of Boom, and we had a couple years of them percolating.
Yeah.
So when they finally made it to
You're
the
right. This
mountaintop,
happened very fast.
This was like
happened.
there are still players on the second tier behind the marquee where I'm like, who is that? Like, what is that guy? Like, is a crucial player,
Yeah.
and I just haven't had time to fall in love with him yet.
Yeah, like Ernest Jones, number 13.
Yeah, like number 3. He's really good, and I can't remember.
And he's not Russell Wilson.
Right.
Nicky Imamori.
Umanura?
Imanora.
That guy's a beast.
Yeah.
But, like, I haven't had a time to, like,
He's in the nickel all the time.
know him well enough.
He's like another linebacker out
He's
there.
great.
It's like
He's
having
fantastic.
another linebacker. He can play. He'll play nose guard.
Did he do
He'll play
the Bam Bam
He'll play
Cam?
tackle. He'll play the 3, the 5, the 7. Yeah, and then I have to say that the Seahawks, they put on a hell of a show there at Lumen Field. It's one of the best shows that you ever see. And in fact, the host there used to wash cars for the Seattle Seahawks, and now he has a job at Cairo doing radio there. And he's also he grabs the microphone and engages the whole stadium and does a really great job.
G. Scott?
Yeah, G. Scott does. Congratulations to him. He does a really, really great job.
Congratulations to you, because the Seahawks have put out a statement that it was your section that caused them to win that game.
Had to be. Had to be.
I mean, you guys were really performing at a high level.
Section 110, more in a minute.
Thanks for for being a part of the Ron and Don Nation. Subscribe to the Nation News at ronanddonsitdown.com. A behind-the-scenes look at everything Ron and Don.
All right, you guys, welcome back to the Ron and Don Show. Sorry to talk about sports all day, but I'm really not sorry to talk about sports because, yeah.
Go Hawks!
Well, we're on to the Mariners.
Go Mariners!
They don't say that at the Mariner game.
Never mind.
Thank you.
Big dumper.
Yeah, that's what they say.
My oh my!
You know what they do to put a lot of pressure on the big dumper, and they'll do it all year. Every time he steps to the plate, they start chanting MVP.
MVP, yeah.
Which you're just like, I just struck out again. Stop it with the MVP. Like, tired of it. Anyway, your thoughts on Rick Riz? We know Rick personally. I wouldn't say we're best friends, but boy, we really admire him. Rick, the voice of the Mariners, I think better than most, did a really great job understanding how much people love Dave Niehaus here and how much we love Dave's family. And Rick has done a really good job of building a bridge, I think, in the broadcast between some of the newer broadcasters that are aboard on TV and radio and some of the older broadcasters like himself. I think what has happened here with Root Sports going away, it's just been announced
And
that
we should say Rick has announced his retirement after this year.
Yeah. Knowing him, he's only going to be 72. Like, we just saw him at our toy drive for Les Schwab. He's everywhere. Anytime you see him, he just wants to talk about baseball. He wants to talk about how you're doing, and he loves talking about baseball.
He has one
I
of
have
the
a
most...
really, just to finish this thought, I have a really hard time thinking at the age of 72, which is pretty damn young, that Rick Riz wants to just go sit at home and not call Mariner games anymore, especially we're on the precipice of maybe going to another World Series here. I have a really hard time. I just have a really hard time believing that Rick is walking away. And they have a newer model. It's the Major League Baseball model. They have people that Major League Baseball wants to use here in this market for TV and radio. And I don't think Rick was one of them. So they had to give him a tip of the hat, and they had to give him the year to say goodbye. At the same time, and I don't know this to be true, but I think Rick had to go, hey, I got to agree that this is the last year, and so I'll do that, and I'll get to, people be giving him flowers all year long.
I don't know. I think he's got a stature in baseball that he can cause his own exit strategy. He was in an accident a couple years ago where he broke some bones and had to go through a lot of rehab. It to me is feasible to think that travel schedule is brutal. Where you are traveling around for over 80, 90 games a year when you factor in the postseason, upwards of 120 games. And so the schedule that I saw them announce is that he's going to do all the home games and do a limited travel schedule. So there is a narrative where a guy in his 70s who's had a pretty bad accident, it's been in a lot of pain, is saying, I can't do the travel schedule anymore. And even you look at guys like Vin Scully that, were with the Dodgers for a long time. They started limiting their, and Joe Buck's dad, the same thing. They would start to limit their away games just because it's very hard to do that travel schedule. I don't think the Mariners would force him out. It could be, but I want to believe that.
I don't know. It's the Mariners.
Way.
I think it's Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball now decides how those games are going to be distributed now that Root Sports is gone. Right, so the Mariners just stand there and they get a check. I don't know how much say they have when it comes to the actual broadcast.
So I just want to tell this one story that Rick Riz has one of a superhuman memory. Don and I were having him in studio one time, and on that same day, a member of the Yankees staff had passed away. And I'm blanking on his name, but he used to wear the helmet, like a military helmet. He was a bench coach for the Yankees. Zimmerman, I believe, was his name.
He wore a military helmet?
Yeah, he would wear in the dugout. He would wear like a World War II style military helmet, and it was really funny. He was a real overweight guy. But
no, I remember Zimmerman. I don't remember him wearing the helmet.
There were some funny pictures of him.
Okay.
And so Rick was not in to talk about that. Rick was in studio to talk about some Mariner promotion that we had on Cairo. And I just said, hey, offhandedly, were you close to or know of anything with Zimmerman? He just passed away. Rick did, off the top of his head, I think 15 minutes on Zimmerman. And he went back to when he was a player, who he played for, what his stats were, what his positions were, when he got traded, went through his entire career in like major statistical milestones, when he became a coach, who he coached for. Like he walked through this guy's career with stories and anecdotes and specific memories, specific batting averages, and his specific accomplishments as a bench coach moving his way up to the Yankees, his world championships. It was the most astonishing. I didn't go fact check him, but it was one of the most astonishing feats of memory that I've ever seen. And I literally threw it off thinking he would say, oh, Zimmerman was a good guy and we're going to miss him. It was insane to me, his recall.
Before there was ESPN, there wasn't ESPN, and Kyle Radio covered the Mariners and the Seahawks. So I remember we were covering the Mariners one afternoon, and Tommy Lasorda was there. And Rick came in and sat with Tommy Lasorda on our broadcast.
I remember Tommy was great.
And we just turned our microphones off and let those guys talk. So I have a great idea here. If it's that much fun to sit down with Rick Riz and watch a baseball game, in the same way that you have the Manning cast and the Manning brothers say, hey, we don't want to travel around the country, so we just sit here at home and we jump on a camera and we watch the game together. How about like a Riz cast, a Rick Riz cast?
Love the Riz
cast. And you could sit down in the Riz cast and you could watch the game with Rick Riz instead of one of these major league baseball voices we're going to end up
Buhner in there. You could get the Bone. You could get Ken Griffey. I mean, that would be incredible. That's a great idea.
The Riz cast.
That is the best idea you've had in a long, long time.
The Riz cast.
I love the Riz cast.
The Double R cast. The Rick Riz cast.
Put it online. I would stream that.
I would sit there and watch baseball.
I would watch that every day.
Yeah.
He's fantastic.
Because that's the thing. Where's all that going to go? Like, where does that go? Like all that
history.
All that stuff that he has in him that has to come out, and he's an artist and he's brilliant. Where does that go? So I love the fact that he has this year, but I still feel like he's being pushed out. That's just my opinion. I think
hopefully we'll find out.
I think he's being pushed out.
The Rizcast is a genius idea, though.
Hey, you guys! Thanks for listening to this episode of the Ron and Don Show. Don't forget the Friday show is coming up. We just recorded it with Matthew Gardner. If you don't know Matthew, he is a real estate economist. He's going to have some really interesting things to say about where the market's at, where the market's going, and then you guys went over something called the locked-in effect. What was that you explored?
Locked-in effect are the 20. I think he said 24% of homeowners in Seattle have a mortgage rate under 3% or right around 3% or less, and they're golden handcuffed to that rate, and they feel like they cannot move, and it is frozen inventory in our area. So there's some new benchmarks that just came out. We're going to go over those with economist Matthew Gardner.
Yeah, he's a really great dad. We met him when we were at Windermere, and now he travels the country, and he's a keynote speaker everywhere.
He's really good.
And he's really tall.
And he's British, which makes it sound more factual.
It does. Yeah.
Like when you say
he did sound smarter than you did.
By a long shot.
I was standing over there.
He just didn't sound, he is smarter than I am.
Even if he's not, he sounds smart.
No, but he is.
Yeah. How do we sound? How can we get?
If I could just have a British accent, I would be like 10% more authoritative.
Yeah. Hey, you guys, if you want to sit down with us, now's the perfect time to do it. We do something called a Ron and Don sit down. We sit down and we talk about your real estate journey. Whether you're thinking about buying, selling, investing, now is a great time to sit down. We'll do that virtually, and then we'll come out and meet you, grab a cup of coffee, and we'll bring you a mug that says, I sat down with Ron and Don. How about that? So people want to get our buyer's playbook or our seller's playbook. How can they do that?
Yeah, email me directly, ron@ronanddon.com, or you can find it at ronanddon.com.
Yeah, thanks to Matt. Also, thanks to Grace. Thanks to Gunner. Thanks for Charlie the dog. He's Ron, I'm Don. Until next time, you keep your head up and your shoulders back, and don't forget that you've been listening to the Ron and Don Show only on the Ron and Don Radio Network.
Thanks for listening to the Ron and Don Show. Please hit subscribe.